Welcome to the Invincible Innovation Show, the podcast for changemakers. Each week, I talk to the most fascinating entrepreneurs and innovation leaders about innovation, strategy, and design. Hey everyone! Today we're going to talk about tech, startups, and doing good. Welcome to Invincible Innovation Live Show. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm Mazor, Kario, product innovation and value creation expert, and I'll be your host. And I have a very special guest with me. Hey, Hillel.
Hello. Good morning.
Good morning. Hillel Fuld, global speaker, tech journalist, startup advisor, and as Israel's top marketer, Hillel works with leading tech entrepreneurs, investors, and visionaries to accompany them on their journey from idea to revenue. Yay! I'm so happy that you're here.
And the Mossad agent.
Too. Okay, we're live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and Facebook, and you're so invited to join the discussion and ask questions. And now we can start. So could you tell us about your journey to be a top marketer for the startups in Israel?
Well, first of all, I don't know that I'm the top marketer. It's a nice compliment that someone wrote about me, but it doesn't necessarily make it true. But basically over the years, I started blogging about tech many years ago, and there was no business model. There was no, advertising. I just literally had thoughts on technology. I started to write them, and entrepreneurs started to reach out to me and ask for help. And so I started to help. And I guess it was very strange that I was helping for free. So, I started to get a lot of startups to my inbox, and I tried to help whoever I can. It turns out that when you help others win in business, you end up winning, because a lot of these companies came back to me and said, we know what you did for us. We want to work with you. What are your terms? And so I kind of built myself a portfolio of companies that I work with on growth.
I see. And what you found out on the way, that sometimes you don't need a plan, you just do something good and then it just gives back to you?
Yeah, 100%. People say to me all the time, it's good karma. I say, karma is nice, but you don't pay for groceries with karma. You need business. And what I do is good business. When you help others win, you end up winning, period.
So tell me, what do you think is the biggest obstacle for startups?
Wow, that's a rough question.
Yeah.
Resilience, staying resilient, even though it's, a roller coaster and it's hard and there are hard times and low times, sticking through those times, I think that makes a startup successful. And that's not easy to do.
Yeah, of course. And sometimes I think that they need to find the strength within themselves in order to really find the answers. But let's say the entrepreneurs are really resilient and they know what they're going to do and they're not giving up. Would you think it's like finding the product market fit, or pivoting, or even like getting the idea outside?
Well, pivoting is part of resilience, because if you're strong enough and you see that you have fierce competition or whatever, or it's not a feasible business model, the ability to pivot shows that you're resilient. So that's a big thing for sure. I mean, listen, there's no, rules to startups, right? There's no guidebook that you can write that will, tell you how to become the next Google. But, every step of the way, listen, entrepreneurship is not for everyone for a lot of reasons. But, to name one, you need a product to raise money. But in order to build a product, you need money, right?
Yeah.
So it's a paradox, and there's many of them, entrepreneurship. So it's not for everyone. And there are a lot of challenges along the way. I don't think there's one challenge or two challenges that are like the most important. It's just a lot.
I think that in the past we had more technology-oriented problems, and now I think that since the companies are growing and we have the capability of creating a product, it's more like about growing and, as you say, growth and marketing and taking something and making it really huge, which is a problem for many startups.
In terms of the brand, you mean? In terms of marketing?
Yeah. So we know more about creating from idea to a product. And now it's like, how do I make it like a multi-million company out of that? Which is a big challenge for startups.
Right. So it comes back to the resilience. I think that's the key word here. In other words, if you expect to do something and get, return on investment from today to tomorrow, that's not going to work. If you understand that it's the long game and you got to keep playing it, and that's when you see success, when you stick it out.
Mm-hmm. And Why do you think the Israeli tech scene is so successful?
Listen, there's a lot of literature on that. There's a lot of speculation and theories, but I think it's a mixture of a lot of things. I think it's the culture. I think it's the army. I think it's, you know, like I guess the historical significance of the Jewish people and being in survival mode, and there's a whole bunch of things. But yeah, I mean, it is remarkable what's going on here. There's no question.
And why do you think we have more entrepreneurs from what we teach our our young children? So how do we have so many of these people?
Yeah, I think it comes back to the fact that, like, as a nation, we always had to be in survivor mode, right? And now we're in Israel, and so we still have to survive, but we have extra energy, extra resources to focus on making the world a better place.
Yeah. And how do you see the Israeli tech scene change, like from Corona after it and in the next like few years? How do you see this change affecting
Yeah,
the Israeli?
I think that we've obviously famously been called Startup Nation, which was very nice at the time. But a startup is a company that doesn't IPO, doesn't go public, doesn't become profitable, and I think that that's no longer true. I think most entrepreneurs in this country want to build unicorns and multi-billion-dollar companies, and they're not interested in flipping their company for $50 million. So that's a really interesting transition. And I mean, you just look at the IPOs over the past couple of months; it's crazy. Country smaller than New Jersey in the most unstable region on planet Earth, and we're killing it.
So do you think that Corona will make it even faster? That's what you're saying?
That Corona will make it faster. I mean, there's Corona presents challenges. I don't know about making it faster, but generally speaking, I think the Israeli ecosystem thrives under pressure. You look at whenever there's a war, there's more innovation, and so it kind of drives us. I don't know if COVID. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of innovation around COVID, of course, but yeah, I just don't think it's stopping. I think we're seeing tons of IPOs and tons of monster rounds and just tons and tons of unicorns. It's wild.
Which one of them is like the ones that you will say like that's a really unique unicorn? That's something really special as I see it.
But in terms of companies,
Yeah.
well, I mean, I work with some amazing companies. I work with a company that you probably never heard of called Substrata. It's in the space of Gong and Chorus. So they help salespeople, and it's amazing technology. It analyzes your nonverbal cues. So talking too fast, talking too slow, too loud, and it tells you how to make a better sales call. It's amazing. I'm also working with TipRanks, which is a financial data platform that's incredibly successful. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm excited about drones. I'm excited about human computer interaction, like how we're going to interact with our computers, the whole AR, VR world. There's a lot of exciting things going on here in Israel.
And what's the most surprising thing you learned about startups from all of these years of experience?
That there are no rules to startups, that every startup is different and every challenge is different. And anybody that tells you that startups are a hockey stick is lying.
Could you tell us a story from one of your customers or one of the projects that you've done?
I mean, I launched a startup many years ago that was basically Slack before Slack. And we launched in San Francisco at TechCrunch Disrupt. We won the Audience Choice Award. Microsoft invested. Everything was going great. But Slack came to the market, and that was game over. And that's not the first or last time that happened to me. So timing is important. Everything's important. Timing, execution, everything's important. And so we were doing well until Slack came and ate our breakfast.
And when you work with these entrepreneurs, do you like see them chasing things that you've chased or facing challenges that you faced in the past?
Yeah, of course. I mean, companies, for example, oftentimes have an idea and they want to run with it, and they don't do competitive analysis. They don't know their competitors. They don't know their go-to-market. They don't like doing research. You just want to run with it, and that's a big mistake.
Yeah. And you help them with research too? Or it's not one of the things?
I mean, I'm more on the strategic level, than actual tactics. But yeah, I help them with it.
I see. How can an entrepreneur be resilient, as you say? What is needed from them in order to stay resilient?
That's a very good question. I think you have to ask my therapist for that.
Okay.
Developing thick skin. It's just being able to fall and get back up. I just think that that's probably the most important characteristic of an entrepreneur is the ability to fail and get up. That's not something that many people can do.
Yeah. And other than this capability, what is the key aspect for a successful entrepreneur?
Besides this, what
Yeah,
other?
many entrepreneurs. Could you say that other than that fact, that this is a characteristic which is very main and prominent? Other than that, there is anything in common with these people?
Um, I think the successful entrepreneurs know how to play the long game. They're not looking for instant, immediate results. They're looking down the road. And you look at some of the biggest companies, it took them many, many, many years to become profitable. Even Amazon, even Google. So you have to be able to play that long game.
I see. And what is your number one tip for innovation leaders and entrepreneurs?
My number one tip:
Yeah.
do market research. Just know who you're up against. Don't be afraid of competitors. The competitors are not dangerous unless you don't know who they are. So find out who your competitors are, do research, and then you'll be able to make a more educated decision when building the company.
Yeah, we have someone joining us from LinkedIn. David Spire said, fail doesn't mean stop. Well said, Hillel. Could you tell us more about failures when you face or other entrepreneurs that face failure? What does that mean for them?
I mean, it depends on the country, right? In Asia, it's a continent, but in Asia, if you fail, you're done. Like that's it. In Israel, if you fail, it's kind of like you get like a trophy, and then you build your next company. So failure in Israel, in our culture, is celebrated, and I think it should be, because you learn from failure. You don't learn from success; you learn from failure. So
yeah, and we know that the successful entrepreneurs are not first-time startups. They had other startups they learned from. And do you think that the VCs are more forgiving for failures of entrepreneurs than in other places?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I think in Israel, failure is celebrated. It really is. I don't think it's something that scares anyone.
Yeah. And do you think that failure is something that we need to teach people in companies, in education, when we talk about failure?
It's an interesting question. I don't know if you could teach failure, but you can teach that failure yields lessons that you should take away. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if we could teach failure, but I guess you could teach how to handle failure. Let's just say.
And do you teach that to your kids?
Not really. They're young.
Yeah.
But I will. I teach my kids the importance of leading, being a leader, not a follower. But I'll teach them that lesson when they get a little older.
Do you think that entrepreneurs teach their kids something different than other people in Israel?
What do you mean?
As an entrepreneur, while the fact that your kids see you in challenges, see you up and down, see you competing, see you stay in the race while you sometimes missed, maybe you teach them how to be this way. While other people, they don't have these experiences, and therefore their kids don't teach. They are not known about that, and they are not taught about that.
So I'm still not understanding. Sorry, I don't mean to be. I only had one coffee.
Yeah.
But dumb the question down for me. I'm not sure I understand.
I'm saying that I think that we have another generation of entrepreneurs because they saw their parents doing that.
Yeah.
So
No, that's true for sure. Yeah, definitely. My kids always talk to me about, Amma, what do you do? And I tell them, like, oh, yeah, 100%, no question.
Yeah, I think. And tell me about your like daily. What would you do like a normal day in your life?
I'd wake up at around 6, have coffee in bed. Me and my wife switch off days to make coffee, and then usually, I'll pray and I'll head out to Tel Aviv usually on most days. Meet entrepreneurs, meet my companies, help them with all the things that I do, social media, content, biz dev, fundraising, PR, all that stuff. Usually a lot of meetings, and then I come home, hang out with my family.
Yeah. And do you see it's changing due to COVID?
I mean, in COVID, there was a lot more Zoom, a lot more virtual. But thank God, business has been good. I'm not complaining about business. COVID was more difficult for me on a personal level, but on a professional level, it was great.
Do you see other people around you facing challenges due to COVID, not only in business, because we know that the Israeli tech scene is not in trouble due to COVID, but in energy in general, in keeping their thought straight?
Yeah. I think I don't. Again, I think like many conflicts, let's call it that, in our region. I think the more challenges, the more adversity, the more innovation. Like you see it across the board. So I think Israel's innovating like never before right now.
Yeah. And what would you do, like, if you come to a company and they are not focused, they don't know their competitors, they don't know what is the right direction? Would you tell them, like, go and do research and come back? What would you
Yeah,
tell them?
that's the first thing I tell entrepreneurs is you have an idea, stop and breathe and do research. Figure out who are all the players in the space and understand if you have a differentiation. If not, then you need to decide, do you want to stick it or do you want to pivot? But yeah, it's the most important thing.
And what do they learn from these, like, research? Do they learn that sometimes it's not a good idea at all, or do they tell themselves we need to go into this scene because it seems really interesting and there are other competitors there? So you could see the map and decide two different things based on that, right?
Again, not understanding your question. They make the map and then they can see it and decide, whether to move forward or not. I think that making that decision before seeing the competitors is just a huge mistake. You're basically operating in the dark.
Yeah. And do you think that sometimes Israelis are impulsive in their business decisions?
I do. I mean, I think entrepreneurs in general are obviously very passionate about their project. They want to run forward, and so stopping and doing research is not very fun. So yeah, I think it's a problem in general, but yeah, definitely in Israel.
And don't you think that the fact that sometimes they don't think and they just do will get them to the result faster in some cases?
If they don't do research?
Yeah, they're just trying things out and testing and getting result without even like trying to.
I wouldn't recommend that. I would not recommend that because, if you're even forget everything else. Even when you go meet an investor and the investor says to you, who are your competitors? You need to tell the investor, you need to answer that question. So doing competitive analysis, in my opinion, is absolutely mandatory. You have to do it.
Yeah, I'm saying that they know who are the competitors, they know the field, but sometimes, like in Europe, if you work with startups, they have this analysis paralysis, thinking too much before they're going and acting and doing something in the world and taking out their ideas. And right. in Israel, we don't have that.
Yeah, no, so the opposite extreme. I think it has to be somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle where, yes, you do the research, but you're not paralyzed by your research and you're ready to move forward. But yeah, it's somewhere in the middle.
Who is the most interesting entrepreneur that you met in your experience through your many years of experience?
Steve Wozniak, probably the founder of Apple. Mark Andreessen, and yeah, I mean, just a whole bunch of people.
What was so special with these people, other than the fact that they are successful?
I mean, Steve Wozniak invented the home computer. He changed our world completely, and he doesn't have any ego. Super down to earth, super nice guy. He told me stories about the early days of Apple. It was an amazing meeting. It was fascinating to see someone, so legendary, have so little ego and so down to earth. That really blew my mind.
Yeah. Do you see that other entrepreneurs, much, much smaller, have lots of ego?
Oftentimes, yes, unfortunately.
Maybe it helps them be more resilient, the fact that they're so sure of themselves and full of ego.
Yeah, ego is a very destructive thing.
Don't you see it's helping startups and entrepreneurs in some cases?
I mean, like fake it till you make it?
No, I'm so sure of myself, and nothing would change my mind because I know what I know. I know everything. I know really well, and therefore it's like I don't let numbers confuse me. Something like that, which is like, I can tell you a story. Like in the past, in the PISA test, we're not that good in math. The kids are not that good in math, but when they asked, I think in 2014, the kids, how sure you are you're going to get a good result, how sure you are with your capabilities in math, we got first in the world. And I think it's related to what you call ego, or being sure of yourself, being really, too
I don't
sure
know if
of
I'd call
yourself
that.
in that case.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call that ego. I'd say that's confidence, self-esteem.
Okay.
It's different.
So what do you call ego? If not, I'm so sure of myself, I know everything, I know better.
Ego is, I don't know, like someone who's, I don't know, a journalist, and then he becomes a VC, and all of a sudden he doesn't talk to the simple people because he's too holier than thou, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, ego can be destructive. Self-confidence and self-esteem are great.
It's like being too ignorant to know that you're not that good.
Yeah, I mean, it's a dangerous thing, and I personally connect most with the people that don't have an ego. People that have done great things that don't have an ego are the people that I respect most.
And when you work with entrepreneurs, sometimes you feel that you are not in the right place, or you're not the right person to work with if they are not like how you see the business.
Yeah, I've unfortunately learned the hard way that I need to work with good people and smart people. Because I've learned, over several experiences that not everyone is good people, and I need to kind of look at the product, but also look at the people involved and make that decision.
Could you tell us about failure in your past, from being like maybe going to the wrong project, going to the wrong client, doing the right thing in the wrong time, whatever?
I mean, I turned down Waze. I turned down Onavo. I had 2 startups that failed. I had a lot of failure, a lot.
What is the most important thing that you learned from these failures?
A ton, absolute ton. I learned, first of all, the importance of timing. People don't realize how important timing is. If you're a month too late or a month too early, it can ruin the company. So yeah, that's really important. And focusing on a pain point, right? Don't just build a solution for something that people don't need. Find something that really hurts you or someone else and fix it.
Yeah. And when you're thinking about your failures, what is the most important personal lesson you learned from it? Not a business lesson.
To just move on and try to be the best person you can be, and put the past behind you.
Yeah. Was it hard in sometimes to put the past behind you and still believe in yourself and say, yeah, I can do another startup, I can do another career, I can do something else?
I mean, that thought has crossed my mind because I won't get into it, but the more successful and the more visibility a person gets on the internet, the more haters there are, stalkers and impersonators and really horrible stuff on the internet. And so I've been, unfortunately, a victim of that several times. So it's very scary. So, part of me is like, forget it. What do I need this stuff for? I'll just go do, some 9-to-5 job. But yeah, I love my job too much to do that.
Why do you think people let themselves be that unkind when they're like behind the screen?
I think that people are hide behind the screen. I think that they're comfortable saying things they wouldn't say in real life. I've
Do you
had
think?
even 2 days ago, someone wrote me on Instagram about some singer. I don't even know the story, but they like went crazy on me, like cursing at me, and like people are much more comfortable on the internet.
Do you think that we need to address that and demand from social networks and other platforms to take responsibility for that, or it couldn't be negotiated in any way?
I mean, it's a fine line between freedom of speech and incitement or libel. So it's a very fine line. So I don't know. I don't know what they can do. Don't know.
Yeah, but I'm sure that you can think about, let's say, I know, Twitter or Facebook, thinking about curses and addressing that and threats. It's easy for them just to find these words and to address them, right? As the same as they do with thinking about posts that they are not like, well, same could be about responses, no?
I mean, listen, it's a dangerous place. That's all I'm saying. The internet is a dangerous place. The world we live in has become a dangerous place. It's very easy to ruin someone, and it's scary.
Don't you think that they need to address it even for their brands? If we're talking about Facebook brand, Twitter brand, for them just to address the fact that they're people getting hurt through their platform and letting people talk this way.
Again, like you see, Twitter banned Donald Trump, but they didn't ban the supreme leader of Iran. Like, it doesn't make any sense. You have to have a systematic plan, and so you can't ban some people and not ban other people.
Yeah. Don't you think they could just address the fact that even rephrasing, I can think about tons of features I could bring about just to think about, just find these curses and threats and rephrase them and suggest rephrasing for these people. There are so many ways that this could be negotiated and handled in a way, and not, people could talk really cruel to each other.
Yeah, I mean, I once tweeted Jack Dorsey, the CEO of Twitter, about all the abuse on Twitter, and he wrote me back and said, we're handling it. This was a few years ago. Tons of abuse on Twitter, on Facebook, people, stalkers, and it's scary. And the more successful you get, the more of them they are. It's very scary.
Yeah. I think that, as I see it, they have the responsibility. They could do, I know, ads and talk to people about the way that they're communicating and talk about bullying. And why don't they address it? Because it's not good for their PR. That's the only reason. Because we don't want to say that we have any responsibility. Of course, not legally when they go to the Senate or something. They just they say it's not us, we're just a platform. But actually, you're allowing that in your platform. So
it's you're a vehicle. I mean, it's a vehicle that distributes and amplifies messages, and there's no question they have responsibility. I mean, Facebook is a site at scale that we've never seen before, and so you can't say that they have no responsibility. But the question is, how far do you take it?
Do you imagine that when Mark Zuckerberg set and started his startup, would he imagine that he will be so powerful and so much responsibility on his shoulders? Even
No
just
way.
imagining that?
No way. No way. I mean, I think he started this small thing in his college room. He felt like just communicating colleges, and he did not imagine it being this big. No way.
What do you think he tells himself today, that he still did this ideology-related person who just wants to make the world better? When he thought about himself, what do you think Mark Zuckerberg tells himself?
I mean, I think he thinks he's trying to make the world a better place. That's what I think. But some things he does are questionable. But yeah.
Don't you think that today's entrepreneurs who are getting to be big tech leaders are more powerful than any other leader in the world?
I do think so, yes. I think that there's never been a person, I think, on Earth with as much power as Mark Zuckerberg. That's what I think. It's very scary.
Yeah. And what do you think about what's going on today with the US Senate and all the compromising the strength and the power of these 5 tech companies leading the world?
Yeah, so I just had this discussion with someone the other day. I think once we start going down that route and the government starts to control private companies or even public companies, then we start entering the territory of China, because that's what China does, and we don't want to be there.
But don't you think it's needed just to have any kind of negotiation there?
I mean, yeah, it's not. I do think that Zuckerberg needs to be limited in his power. I do agree with you about that, but the question is how it's done.
How could it be done if not from a governmental, legal perspective, legislation?
I mean, it could be done. It could be done by the board. be done by the board. The board can say you have too much power. We're splitting up the power.
Do you think that there is any chance for the board that are representing people making money out of Facebook, of course, would they compromise the leadership of Mark Zuckerberg in any way?
I mean, I do. He's doing a good job. There's no question, but I do think everyone's a little concerned.
When you wake up in the morning, are you concerned with what you see on? You leave the internet, you leave social media. What would you tell your kids? Not going into TikTok, not going into Instagram, or what would you tell them?
I tell them that the internet can do incredible things, and it's an unbelievable technology. But like everything in the world, it can be abused, and there are many, many people that abuse it, and they should be careful.
Like when they work, when you tell them you could go out and play in the street, the same. Like
be careful.
Yeah. Do you want your kids to go into tech?
Maybe some of them.
Because it's more interesting. It's creating the future. They will make more money. What would be the case that you will say, yeah, that's a good path? One of your friends or kids or someone who is just advising with you.
I think if you're passionate about technology, if you're passionate about anything, then you should do that thing. And so if you're passionate about technology, then I don't need to tell you this is where it's all at, right? Tech is where everything's happening. So I would definitely. I mean, it depends on the person. Not every one of my kids is relevant, is suitable for tech, but some are for sure.
And what would be your tip if somebody is like trying to go into tech and to create something? What would you be like? The first step should be, what would you tell them?
Research.
If you're research, I see. Okay.
Make a list of companies that are exciting to you. Do your research on them, and then try to get intros to them, and see if there's any synergy.
Yeah. Okay. I want to thank you for your time. It's been really enjoyable, and thank you. Where could people hear more about your work and contact you?
My website is hillelfuld.com. There, everything's there. My Wikipedia, my writing, my videos, my audio, my course, it's all there. So hillelfuld.com.
Great. So thank you for your time. It's been really interesting. Have a great day. Thank you to all of you. Thanks. And to all of you change makers out there, thanks for joining us. And if you want to learn more about my work, visit invincibleinnovation.com, and I'll see you next week with another innovative, insightful talk. See ya.
Thank you.
I'm Mazor Kario, and you've been listening to the Invincible Innovation Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, invincibleinnovation.com, where you can learn more about our programs and my book, Innovating Through Chaos. I'll be waiting for you next week in our next episode. Thank you for listening.